Okay, so, as you can see, it turned out pretty nice. One area you want to watch is as you're removing and replacing the glass, this little plastic shroud that holds these flash lamps gets hit by the glass. In fact, you can see like heavy scarring right here in the corner, so obviously that's been happening since frickin' forever. And there was a nasty piece of black tape here, and the shroud is actually cracked a little bit, and it was missing this hex post. So I had to, measure from that side and get the same size hex post and, redo the assembly here when I was putting it back together. So now it's the way it's supposed to be, but it sits a little high, and there doesn't seem to be any way to make it sit any lower. But obviously that was a problem, like, since forever, because, that's why this is a little banged up. But, that's purely cosmetic. None of this actually supports anything. So just when you're sliding the glass in, as the glass comes up, you're going to have to just push this down with your finger to get the glass in. Just don't forget to do that, because that's where it hits. Okay, so that missing plastic is actually here. If you can see it, it's a clear plastic. So this post was here, but there was nothing else on top of it, and it's this long triangular section of plastic. It actually goes all the way back to here, and I guess it was to prevent maybe air balls from hanging up in there. But that was in the replacement set, so I finally looked at some high-res pictures, and that's where that goes. So the missing plastic is now replaced. Let's see, a lot of these steel playfield posts were really, really loose. In fact, this one I could grab with my hand and actually shake it back and forth. So I'm really glad that part of my procedure is I go through and tighten absolutely everything to make sure it's tight. And also, weirdly, the white pop bumper, that was super loose. So usually the bodies of these pop bumpers don't loosen up. I think somebody had all three of these pop bumpers apart at some point. I'm not sure why, but they almost definitely did. And this one was really loose. So I tightened that down, and that's fine now. And also, as I pulled everything apart down to the deck, this back quarter, was filthy, the way they always are, because nobody takes this stuff off to clean it very often. But somebody had a lot of this disassembled at one point, because a lot of these rails, the dividers on the playfield, they were missing screws. Like half of the screws were missing. It's like they took it apart and then just didn't bother to put all the screws back. Maybe, who knows, maybe they lost some of them. And that's like really a problem, because when those lane dividers move back and forth, they scratch the playfield up. I have no idea why they did that. But anyway, it's all done now, and everything, everything works. Everything's tight. I replaced, missing bolts and screws anywhere they were missing. This Mylar is actually underneath the slam ramp is actually in pretty good condition. It just has that typical where it looks really nasty along the front edge because it had been peeling up a little bit and dirt gets under it. The only way to fix that is either remove it entirely, which always has the risk of pulling up paint with it, or I took a straight edge and a brand new X-Acto and just ran it very, very lightly along the front edge to cut through just the Mylar and not damage the playfield. And then you use a pair of tweezers and you peel that piece back and then clean it with a little alcohol, and it actually looks a lot better. And there's a foam pad on the bottom of this, so when it goes down, the metal does not actually touch the playfield anywhere. It's resting on that foam pad, so all that's good. You're just missing, you have a broken metal piece here that's been ground off, and it should have another post like this here, but it's not critical. So if you ever replace this whole thing, you'll have that back, but you have to buy these posts separately. So if you buy that slam ramp to replace it at some point, it's not hard, but you're going to have to. It doesn't come with any of these little gadgety things. You have to put them on yourself. Other than that, okay, when I got it and it was sitting here in the first service position, this rail, this one was a little bent, but this one was severely bent. It was bent, down like this, which is typical when someone has the playfield raised up in the air and they just drop it, and it hits the lock bar and it bends the shit out of this. So I took this off, and with a couple of pairs of wrenches managed to get it all straight again. So that's decent. I'm going to put the camera down for a second. Okay. Okay, so down here, so this rail is all fixed now, and I also had some problems with some of the lamps, and I thought I was going to, because this lamp PCB right here had the zip tie trick. In other words, there's a zip tie around the connector and over this lamp base, holding them tight together, and that's what dickheads do when there's cracked solder joints on the header pins. So they put some pressure on it so they light up, instead of pulling the PCB out and reflowing the header pins and the solder pads on all the twist lamp sockets the way you do it the right way. So I had to pull it out on this one and this big one with the same problem. So it's, you diagnose it by you have the lamp test on and you wiggle the connector and the lamp suddenly pop back on again. You have cracked solder joints. So anyway, that got fixed. Okay, so this is that main disc that spins. In order to level this, it's very similar to the Addams Family bookcase. So what you do is, if you grab this white plastic ring and turn it lefty-loosey, then you can grab the center post, and it's just a big screw. So the whole thing moves up and down to get it level. And then when you have it where you want it to be, you just tighten this. You tighten this plastic ring down again, and it stops moving. But that doesn't help with, is it parallel to the playfield? Okay, so that's this screw, and this screw over here, which takes, I think, either a 3/8 or a 5/16. And you can just turn those, and that's what turns it this way, up and down, right, to make it parallel. So you got to get it parallel, and then you have to get it exactly even. So you can put your hand on the other side, the top side of the playfield, and feel it when you're turning these screws, and you can feel it when it gets dead flat, and you can get it dialed in. It's dialed in now, it's nice and flat, but that's how you do it. Okay, some of the other things are, here the pop bumper, and it had the typical issues where, everything was loose, so it's all tightened down now, but someone had definitely had this out, okay, because you can see these burn marks where they desoldered the lamp leads, and, it's typical, and they have really sloppy solder jobs, so I had to redo this one and like one or two of the other ones to get them right, but that's right now. I pulled these subways are all cleaned. Flippers have brand new kits in them. They're really snappy now, so you'll never have to do that again. There's a lot of other little things. Oh, so how I know that they had the ramps out at some point is all of these connectors, of course, and there's a lot of them, were marked. Not by me, but by whoever did it before me. So one issue was, like 3 of these connectors on the left-hand side here are 2-wire and 2-pin connectors, so they're really easy to mix up, and somebody had them reversed. So they had one of the switches mixed up with one of the flash lamps. Now that's not disaster because they both run on 12 volts, so they're not going to blow anything out, but it means the switch on the lamp doesn't work, right? So they actually had these mismarked when they put them back together again, because they had the switches are usually white with green and the flash is blue and red, and they had a blue and red and a white and green mixed together, so somebody was very careless. So anyway, that's all done. The leg brackets are replaced. You got a new front lock. What else? The ones got done in the back. You can't really see that. But anyway, that's the major stuff. I'm probably forgetting, 10 or 20 things that I found and fixed, but, everything's back together. Everything works perfectly. I think it turned out pretty well. But just like I said, it's, it had some half-assed brother-in-law work done on it at some point, but it's all fixed now. And there it is. So if you ever need to get under this thing, there's actually only one screw holding it on, which, by the way, had the wrong bolt in it. But anyway, if you undo this one right here, this entire top piece, where you go up for the hole-in-one, this actually just shimmies out from under everything. You have to kind of rock it here and there to get it out. But you can get under this if you need to, to access any of this stuff. It's actually pretty easy. One issue I had was there are 2 separate latch relays. One holds the ramp up on either side, and one holds the gopher up. And occasionally they would stick. And I don't know why. Nothing was jamming them up. And then I'd throw it into test mode and test it 20 times and it would never stick, and then I'd put it back in and then play 10 games and it wouldn't stick, and then occasionally it would stick. So if you just tap it with your hand, it pops back down, and I'm not sure why. There's nothing obvious there. It just you know, it sticks occasionally. It doesn't seem to be too much to do to fix it. Oh, one last thing is, if you ever decide to replace this sticker, because it's just a big decal to make it look nice and new. I mean, it's okay now, but if you can see, there's a little black triangle right there where my finger is. That black triangle has to match up with a notch on the steel disc that it sits on, or it will never be right. So if you ever, I would loosen up that big white nut on the bottom, lift it up real high to get it proud of the play field, peel that off, you know, use some solvent to get the goo off, and when you put the new one back down, you have got to match it up with this this little black triangle and the notch on the side of the disc. Otherwise, this will never match up to what you're supposed to win. Okay, other than that, there it is. If you have any questions, let me know.